Hey everybody, welcome to the newest episode of Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem
Rob,
and today we're going to give you our preview and prediction for the Juan Manuel Marquez-Bradley fight happening this Saturday, October 12th on pay-per-view. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to weigh the strengths of both fighters and how they play against each other, and from that we'll do our prediction. So I'm going to start and let Rob go with his view on the strengths of Juan Manuel Marquez.
Okay, so if you know Juan Manuel Marquez, he is one of the biggest fighters to come out of Mexico. He's actually at that legendary status along with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Marco Antonio Barrera, Eric Morales. Is just, he is, I would say, in that top 5 echelon. He has faced a who's who of 140 and below. And his most notable fights were against Manny Pacquiao, which he put an emphasis on their rivalry with a hellacious counter-right knockout. So,
pow, right in the kisses.
He was the victim of many memes. I'm pretty sure you've seen them. So he brings a lot to the table for this fight. Tenacity, skill, experience, toughness, and he's actually had an increase in speed and strength over his career, especially when he brought in Angel Heredia into his camp as his strength and conditioning coach. So you're going to see a very fit Marquez, a very strong Marquez, and a Marquez with great endurance. Not only that, he is a supreme counterpuncher, which is how he knocked Manny Pacquiao out. And one of the things that he does great is he takes a half step back before firing shots, and it's never one at a time. It's usually 2 or 3 punches at a time, except for that one punch with Manny Pacquiao where he timed his feint and came over with overhand right. So he's going to be looking for an aggressive Tim Bradley to come to him and try to make him miss and make Bradley be a lot more wild and undisciplined. And if you watch the 24/7 episodes, his trainer, Nacho Beristain, actually said that he's trying to make Bradley wild in the fight, lose his composure and go away from his game plan like he did in the fight with Ruslan Provodnikov, who, if you've seen that fight, gave Tim Bradley all that he could handle.
Yeah, and those things are going to show up in this fight. Tim Bradley does have a tendency to stray from the plan, as we've seen, such as the Ruslan Provodnikov fight. And a lot of that had to do with the chip he got on his shoulder from the outcome of the Manny Pacquiao fight. I mean, that really wasn't his fault. He did the best he could to win. The judges thought that what he did was enough for him to win. We can't really blame him for that. He didn't tell the judges to do that. But let's talk about what Bradley does well. One thing is he does have very good hand speed. Bradley can put punches and bunches together. He does very good punching to the body. He really commits on that left hook to the body. He really throws to the body in combination. That looks to wear down his opponent as the fight wears on. That's another one of his strengths. He's usually the more conditioned athlete when it comes to them being in the ring, with the exception of him fighting Manny Pacquiao, probably Marquez. Marquez is going to be very conditioned coming into this fight as well. But that's a very good strength of Bradley, is his ability to push harder than his opponent. We saw it against like Devin Alexander. We saw it against Ruslan Provodnikov. You saw it against Kendall Holt, Lamont Peterson. You saw it against a lot of guys where he really pushed the gas pedal, pushed the pace, and the guys really just couldn't keep up with him. Another strength he has is his will. I mean, he's got an iron will. He won't be denied, and you can see that from his fights with most recently Ruslan Provodnikov, especially in that second round where you could look in his eyes and see that he was not there. Like, you could see his eyes up in the rafters, but his mind and his body was so in tune and so focused that he was still throwing punches while you could see that he was clearly out. And it takes a very special person to be able to do that. You're not going to get that from 99.9% of fighters. That's that extra mile of being highly conditioned and having that will that I'm going to win no matter what.
Not only that, but in the Pacquiao fight, you saw him stop moving, and reports out of that fight was that he injured both ankles, so he was actually forced to stand toe-to-toe. And if you watch the fight, what we noticed, at least everyone says that Pacquiao won 9-3, 10-2. We saw a much closer fight. We did give the nod to Pacquiao, but he was able to come and kind of make Pacquiao uncomfortable by firing his own shots back. Like you said, he is a man with iron will. But let's not forget, Marquez is the same way.
Right.
You're talking about 4 fights with Manny Pacquiao, 2 in which were decision losses, 1 which was a draw, and all of them controversial. The only one that was not controversial was the knockout.
Right.
But you're talking about a guy who came off the canvas 3 times to render a draw against Manny Pacquiao. That is someone with iron will.
Exactly. So in this fight, it's really going to come down to who can impose their will on the other one the most. I think if it goes the distance, it's going to be a fight for Bradley. One, because Marquez takes a little bit of time to get going, and Bradley is somebody he's working from the first bell. He's going to work from round 1 to round 12. And we've seen Marquez in fights like Joel Casamayor, Juan Diaz, Michael Casitas, where he endured a little bit of trepidation and trouble early in those fights. Even Manny Pacquiao. Like the first round of Manny Pacquiao, the first fight, he gets dropped 3 times, as Rob said. It takes him some time to get going and to figure you out. But once he does, is when he starts to cause the problems. So we're looking probably for Bradley to take a 2 or 3 round lead early in the fight. Marquez to come fighting back hard. And for the championship rounds, it's going to be really, really tight. Like, both guys are they're not going to want to give up. They're not going to want to give that ground to the other one. And we could see a tactical slugfest where you're seeing Marquez do a lot of his feints and his half-step counters, and Bradley using his movement and footwork, working his combinations, and neither one of them taking a step back, but circling and having a war still. It's going to be highly entertaining while still highly technical. Like, they won't throw their fundamentals out the window. But the person who does will probably lose the fight. And I would say that person would probably be Bradley before Marquez. Now, with that, I'm saying, like, I had the same thought for the Pacquiao fight, because while Bradley throws punches in bunches, sometimes he can be very wide with those punches. Sometimes he can lead with his head, and his head goes down to the floor, whereas he doesn't see his opponent. And against a sharpshooter and someone with the ring IQ of Marquez, he can see that and take advantage of it, shoot something right down the middle, catch Bradley. And unlike Kendall Holt and Ruslan Provodnikov, he has the punch selection and the IQ that he can finish the fight. That is how I think it's going to go. I think that if Bradley doesn't get caught and finish, he's going to win a decision.
Now, these are 2 guys, like you said, it's going to be tactical slugfest. It's going to be very controlled aggression. I think at a certain point, while both do have great defense and they have great head movement, they're great boxers, they're also fighters, not just boxers. And these guys have the will to take a punch and come right back with something in response. Even against Provodnikov, Bradley was literally out, head up, and he just kept throwing punches just to keep him moving. He didn't want to show actual weakness, even though you could see he might have been dazed or out on his feet.
He was completely out.
He kept throwing punches.
Right. And that was round 2, by the way. Sorry. Go back and see that. It's probably on HBO on demand. If you have HBO, check out the second round of that fight. I mean, it is amazing to see that kind of will on display.
And I mean, the will to keep punching, because that fight actually could have been stopped in the second round.
Oh yeah.
And he was throwing those punches back. Now there's one factor that everyone knows that Bradley has at his disposal, whether he wants to admit it or not, and that's the old noggin. He has a very big, strong, bony head.
Yeah, it causes cuts. The Devin Alexander fight ended on a cut. The Nate Campbell fight ended on a cut. At first it was ruled a TKO. Later it was changed to a no decision. But Bradley is very well known for using that head. Like I mentioned earlier, he comes in with his head down, and that causes a lot of trouble for opponents, and it brings them off their game. But I don't think Marquez will be off his game because of that.
Well, I think there will be some complaints about headbutting,
right,
which I don't think it would deter him, but it will do enough, even if it has to open a cut on his eye.
Right.
And Marquez has been in wars, so he might easily be cut in this fight, especially with his head and the accumulation of punches.
Yeah, he's been cut many times before, so that could be a factor. And if it gets bad, we might be looking at a very unsatisfactory ending.
But because of these two fighters, there's no give in them, and I see a classic brawl, a classic fight, possibly one of the year's best. I mean, this could be a fight of the year candidate over Bradley's fight with Ruslan and Provodnikov and Marquez's fight with Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, well, that was the fight of the year last year. So for Tim Bradley to be in two possible, well, already probably the front runner for fight of the year, and then a possible another one just speaks to his acumen as a fighter. So you guys tune into this fight. It's going to be a really good fight. Unfortunately, the undercard leaves a lot to be desired. So I would say go out to a bar with your friends and check it out. Or
catch Glory and then watch the fight.
Yeah, that's a great idea right there. Watch Glory Kickboxing on Spike. You'll get plenty of knockouts on there, and then turn to the Bradley Marquez fight. That's a great night in my eyes. So that's all we got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it with your friends and say, hey, I subscribe. You should subscribe too. That way I don't have to keep showing you these videos. And if you don't subscribe, send a Rob to your house. Peace.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.